Now, the spectacle of the Men's Football World Cup is returning to Asia. Saudi Arabia will host the FIFA Men's World Cup in the year 2034. Now, this has been confirmed by FIFA head Gianni Infantino. And the manner in which Saudi Arabia won the hosting rights has caught everyone by surprise. Australia was also contesting to host the World Cup, but then they backed out, leaving Saudi Arabia as the only bidder. A no-brainer then, a no-brainer decision for FIFA. In fact, even the Australians are in support of Saudi Arabia hosting the World Cup. Listen to this.
Look, we're very happy that the 2034 World Cup will come to the Asia region. That's important to us. We want to see more competitions in this part of the world. There's still a few hours. We know that Saudi are bidding. If Saudi are the bid that goes through, of course, we'll be supporting Saudi Arabia. But most importantly, we're very happy that the 2034 World Cup will come to Asia.
Now, for those who have been following developments in the world of football, Saudi Arabia hosting the World Cup may not come as a surprise. The sport has seen a massive jump in interest in West Asia. It all started when big names made their move to play football in Asia. It was Cristiano Ronaldo who started the trend, which is still continuing. Ronaldo moved to Saudi Pro League club Al Nassr in 2022, and he thinks that the future of football is in Saudi Arabia and West Asia. This year, Karim Benzema and Neymar were the two biggest names in football to sign up for Saudi clubs. But the craze for football reached multifolds when Qatar hosted the 2022 World Cup. It was a remarkable achievement for football in Asia. Qatar became the first West Asian nation to host the big tournament. Now, Saudi Arabia has the chance to make their own mark, and the people cannot control their excitement.
Now we have the ambition to host the World Cup. And we have seen the involvement in Saudi football and the whole sector. We deserve this, and the success of the World Cup being hosted in Qatar gives us hope and a push to become the first place in the world in terms of hosting such events.
Clearly, the fans in Saudi Arabia feel they deserve to host the World Cup. The nation is booming with confidence. But there are a few things it must get in order to make this a successful execution. One of the biggest criticisms of Qatar hosting the World Cup was exploitation of labor. Workers from India, Nepal, Bangladesh and Pakistan were hired to build football stadiums. They were holed up in unsanitary accommodations and were forced to overwork without proper compensation. According to Qatari officials, between 400 to 500 of the migrant workers lost their lives in different projects related to the tournament. Nobody was held accountable, not one FIFA official was sacked, and Qatar basically washed their hands off without facing much backlash. And this wasn't it. Qatar was accused of imposing harsh restrictions and rules on fans and tourists. This included regulations on dressing, drinking, and even applying paint to the face. Any person seen wearing or supporting the LGBTQIA+ community was detained. Many of the fans who traveled to Qatar were upset, but FIFA backed Qatar and said that the host nation has the prerogative to implement rules and laws according to its culture. Qatar's hawkish handling of the Football World Cup have fans worried about the way Saudi Arabia will host the World Cup. Human rights organizations have already raised the red flag. They believe that Saudi Arabia will follow Qatar and disregard safety for workers.
There are a lot of very serious labor problems we already saw building the World Cup in Qatar that could be replicated, but on a scale of at least 6 times in Saudi Arabia. And that would be catastrophic for the migrant workers, for their families who would lose loved ones. And football players don't want to play the most important games of their lives in stadiums that workers died to build.
Harsh words that. And that's not it. Some are calling Saudi Arabia's hosting rights a catastrophe. They are worried that members of the LGBTQIA+ community will be targeted if they travel to Saudi for the World Cup. This could include fans, journalists, tourists, even players.
For more than a decade, the World Cups, which is the world's largest and most popular, beloved sporting events, have been staged in countries that don't have basic human rights protections. And that means protections for the migrant workers who are building the stadiums. It means protections for LGBT players, fans, journalists, and others. So it's a catastrophe for human rights if the World Cup goes to Saudi Arabia in 2034.
Saudi Arabia hasn't even begun preparations and they're already facing criticism. Now, we know that they take football and sports seriously, and the World Cup is a platform for them to show their progress as a society, a hub for the world to visit and revel at a massive sporting event. Saudi officials would have taken cues from the mistakes made by Qatar. Getting to host the Football World Cup is a spectacular opportunity to bring thousands of people together and celebrate the spirit of sports. And we think that is exactly what Saudi Arabia will be aiming to do.